and say, welcome everyone. Um, Today we've got a typical agenda. We've got Dustin giving us a bit of a demo, and then we'll talk about how things have moved forward with the development, and that'll be the wrap up. So, Dustin, why don't you take it away?
Share this. So I'm going to do a little demo of synchronization to the cloud and just looking at what happens in the cloud. But before we do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about how sync works in Task Champion. And as a bit of further background to that, this was how I kind of got into TaskWarrior. I didn't like how the sync worked for the TaskWarrior 2 because it broke all the time and messed up my tasks and stuff like that. And I was thinking about how would you design a distributed system to work this way. And there's a thing called operational transformation that supports this kind of work really well. And it at least at one point was kind of how Google Docs worked to synchronize things. Someone can be a little bit behind on their network, and Google Docs still figures it out. And same idea with that. You might have a replica that's on your laptop that you haven't opened for a week, but it should still be able to catch up when you open it and do a task sync there. So I won't get into too much of the detail of how operational transform works, but basically everything you change in TaskWarrior makes an operation. That sort of transition between two states. So you might have a state with a task to get groceries, and you do an operation on it to change its priority, and then the new state is that same task with a higher priority. Um, and the operations you can have are create, delete, and delete the task, and then update to change one of the properties of the task. Just string properties, string values. And when we do a sync, um, basically your local TaskWarrior replica takes all of the changes we've made since the last sync and creates a new version from them. It's just a list of the operations that it's performed. And then it tries to upload that to wherever the sync server is. So whether that's Google Cloud or the Task Champion sync server or any other implementation of this protocol. And there's an invariant there, which is the versions have to sort of go together in a linear sequence. So you can't have a branch. You can't have two versions. You can't have one version that's then followed by two different versions, because that would be a fork in the road. So the upload process ensures that basically your replica makes the new version and tries to send it to the server, and the server says, no, I already have a version with that parent. So try again. And then you'll go back and get the updates, apply them locally, make a new version, and try again. And eventually you end up with a linear sequence of versions that sort of starts at nothing and ends at your current task state. And the idea is that if you applied all of the operations in all those versions, you'd end up with exactly the set of tasks that all of your replicas have. So they sort of store the latest state. But in principle, it's all just a set of operations to start from an empty bunch of tasks and end up with what you're working with on a day-to-day basis. And there's a transformation process that's pretty cool, and I'm going to do it here, for how to kind of rebase those versions on top of one another when there's conflicts. All in all, the protocol is basically just uploading versions and downloading versions. So kind of a thing that you can think of using a cloud storage with. Most cloud storage just has a way to store some data and a way to get some data. So those are kind of the two things you need. The third one you need is some way to store data after making sure some invariant is true. And that's how we make sure that the versions line up in a straight line. So there's add version to add a new version. There's get child version to get a version. And then there's some support for snapshots, so that we're not downloading thousands and thousands of versions to catch up. These are implemented by the Task Champion sync server. They could be implemented by anything in any language. It's pretty abstract protocol, which is why I haven't worried too much about Task Champion sync server being a great product right now, because often not a great product means that someone else goes and builds something better, and that would really make me. But looking specifically at the cloud, so this is my, let's see, make that bigger and make that go away. Nope, that didn't make it go away. This is my cloud account. And this is in Google Storage buckets. And we're looking at the DG mentioned TaskWarrior bucket because that's where I store all my stuff. I don't remember why I put this in Montreal, but Canada. I think it was the cheapest region. Inside of here, this just stores an object for each of the versions. So this was the first version. So that starts with 0, and then the first version ID was this 4673. And if we look in here somewhere, we could find a version that goes from 4673 to the next version, 0880. And we could follow that through this whole process and see all of the versions that I've created. And you can see these are fairly small because these usually only have a couple changes in them. And they might have been sent from my VPS where I added the task. They might have been sent from my laptop or my other laptop, or these all kind of come from different replicas. And I forgot to mention these are encrypted on the client using the encryption secret. So even if you had access to this bucket here, you can see some metadata about when I synced and how much tasks I have. But if you open one of these up, it's just garbage unless you have the encryption key, which is a big difference from the old task sync server. The old task server stored everything in clear text, and you could just grep through people's tasks if you ran a task server. I ran freesync.com for a while, and when I realized that was when I decided that I actually have to fix this. This is terrible because I could see lots of things on that server that I really shouldn't be able to see. The S's are snapshots. The latest keeps track. This is only 32 bytes, so it's just a hex string that says this is the latest version, and that's the file that we update atomically to say, okay, this is the new latest version. And then salt helps the encryption. So even if you had multiple people using the same encryption key, they would use different salt and would not be able to decrypt each other's data, and has some other cryptographic advantages that Ryan and I talked for quite a while about. Yeah, so that's how that works. Nothing too exciting to see actually change here. If I did a sync, we would just see one more of these version files when I reload the page. But that's basically what's going on here. So this is relatively inspectable if you're using TaskWarrior to sync and you're sort of interested in how the sync process works. This is kind of a nice view to be able to see the server side of what's going on and kind of watch things happen and decrypt or see changes or corrupt it in some way and see what happens if you want to do it. Yeah, so any questions about that?
Cool. So one question maybe. So you said this is pretty standard format, or is this a standard protocol? Just wondering, would it be also possible to use a Git repository to store all this data there?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's a great idea. As I want to go back and clarify, it's an abstract protocol. It's not at all a standard. I'm not submitting this to IETF or W3C or any of those organizations. But that's a great idea. That would be relatively straightforward.
I'm not quite sure whether this would really help with anything because, all the files are more or less unique, so you never get an update on the same file, so version control is not really helping here, but I've seen and heard the people storing their data, TimeWarrior and also the TaskWarrior in Git repositories, so they have some central backup, and just this thought popped into my mind now you seeing this. So if you more or less have a wrapper, or don't know, do you need a wrapper around your Git repository to accept this, or can you do it more or less from TaskWarrior side that you have some client tool that just takes the sync command from your TaskWarrior and then sends the data off to whatever you choose as a storage?
I think you would want to actually use, you wouldn't want to store versions as files in Git because you wouldn't want to basically store this list of data in Git. The problem is that latest is highly contentious. Every modification. Every time you upload a version, you change latest. So when you did a git pull, if you got a conflict on that file, maybe that would work. I'd have to think about that a little bit. You would want to make sure that you would have to ensure that Git had a linear set of commits. So you're basically always rebasing. So you would have to wrap Git a little bit. It's not just a matter of sort of Git commit -a and Git push once a day or something like that. But Git could store this. Git has the operations of putting an object, getting an object, and updating an object atomically. So that's a cool idea. Maybe a new server backend can be a Git backend. Someone want to? You want to play with that, Thomas?
I don't know. I just thinking about it's some kind of a crazy idea. I would have totally be fine if you said it's crazy, get out.
It's actually a really cool idea. I think we should play with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea too, because if it's on a Git backend, then it could be stored virtually anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, he's making a note.
So Ed, you came in just at the tail end of Dustin's demo here. You'll have to watch the replay, but it's great to see you again. We've missed you the last couple of times. You're on mute.
Can you say something, Ed? You were on mute before. Still don't hear you. At least I don't.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't that important. So watching all the, I've been watching the replays, so it's nice to have those online. Really good information. I just haven't been able to make the last couple of them. But I do enjoy them a whole lot because it gives you a lot of information about what's going on and where the community is actually going. So that makes it really good.
Yeah, thanks, Wesley, for putting those together.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, Dustin, for that terrific demo. That was excellent. So, switching gears to the dev side of the house, what's been going on the last, 3 weeks instead of 2 this time?
So I think we finished all of the. We have finished everything in the 3.1 milestone. I did check. GitHub says 100% complete. GitHub. So kind of made an open call in Discord yesterday, but I'll do the same here. Are there things that we need to do to fix in 3.1 before we release that? I'll do the release soon. Last 2 weeks too. We have fixed the ability to silence task news. Warning if the import has multiple UUIDs, copies of the same UUID. The style guide work, Felix has done work with all the C++s formatted automatically now. No more arguments about formats, no more conflicts. And some updates on time behavior for start of month and start of month. Those are the issues from the last 2 weeks. I guess 3 weeks is what I should look at. Those all seem like relatively minor things. We're good to get into a release, but nothing world changing there. Yeah, a couple other documentation changes in the 3rd week, but nothing too exciting. So I think we're in good shape overall to release, unless there's some major bit of work we want to get in there. And the thing I've been working on for the last 2 weeks is a major change to the Task Champion interface, which will make it much easier to interface with it from other applications like TaskWarrior. So it previously was very smart about like how descriptions are formatted and how attributes are formatted, and how tags are formatted, and that meant a lot of really detailed interface into those different things. There's a method for each of them, basically. And that didn't work for TaskWarrior because TaskWarrior kind of wants to treat a task as just strings. So I built a better interface that treats tasks as just strings, and then there's some add-ons on top of that if you want to have status and attributes and tags. And finished that. Ryan reviewed like 8 CLs in a row for me. Sorry, 8 PRs in a row, sounding like Google Clear. And we'll do a new Task Champion release with that. And I'm working ahead now on making TaskWarrior interface with that new version. So this gets us better interface and better ability to add new functionality to Task Champion and then use it in TaskWarrior relatively quickly. Ryan tried to add some relatively straightforward stuff to Task Champion probably 9 months ago, and it was a real struggle because the stuff doesn't make sense, and it was easy to do things wrong with unsafe Rust and have serious bugs. So this will improve that. It also means that TaskWarrior can see those operations that I talked about in the sync section a lot more clearly, and that will mean that things like task undo can give a better list of what you're undoing, and it will let us get back to the point where task info can show all the changes that happened on a task. Basically, we'll have an index of operations, and you'll see these are all the operations that ever happened for this task, and we'll translate those from sort of sets and gets and things like that into text that says the description was changed to this and the status was changed to this on this date. But that's been a long road to bring that task info journal functionality back. Deleted that over a year ago. We do want to get it back, and this is a big step. So that won't be in 3.1. We'll do the 3.1 release before merging all of this. The next release will probably be 3.2, unless there's a bug in 3.1. And we'll have this this new backend work. So that's where we're at and where we're headed. Questions about that?
If I change to task info, I'll finally be able to see how many times I hit the snooze button on any given task.
Yeah, I think when I was using TaskWarrior 2.6, that's really all I ever looked at it for. Was I'd do task info on something and scroll off the screen. And like, okay, maybe I should actually do this task, but admit I'm never going to do this.
So from my perspective, I don't see any objections to pushing 3.1. It sounds like a solid release to me.
I guess the other thing to talk about is we've gotten a few people making contributions. I mean, if you look at that last 2-3 weeks thing, it's mostly Felix and me. There's someone working on adding some tests. GitHub names are hard to pronounce, but Kolish and Nekior has been working on some of the task news and verbosity related stuff. So I'm kind of trying to make sure people get tickets, get issues to work on that are meeting their needs, whether those are Rust or C++ and how complicated they are. And then I usually, when they finish one, I'm like, great, what do you want to do next? So trying to kind of increase the base of development here. Certainly appreciate any of y'all's help with that. I think an easy way to help with that process is filing issues for relatively small, easy to fix things. Even if you can fix it, it's still cool to file an issue and see if someone wants to pick it up, and then a week later you can just fix it. But especially if it's something that's a small bother for you, it's relatively straightforward to fix, but you don't know how to fix, let's file that as an issue and we can mark them as good first bugs. And then some of the more experienced developers here can mentor people on making those changes. You can mentor someone else. But that's the hook usually to get people attached to a project, is to find something they can work on. It's like, oh, I kind of see how this whole thing works. This is cool. Now I want another task in this project because I understand it better. and kind of work up in complexity there. And typically people will find an interest, and maybe that's time arithmetic, which we certainly need an expert on. Maybe that's recurrence, which we certainly need an expert on. But people find their interest and kind of start working on their own issues in that direction. I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Anything else, Dustin, or shall we move on to Matt or Thomas? Any updates from you guys?
So just take the opportunity to go first. So from my side, nothing big. Thanks to Matt, I think I can more let go of the web page maintenance stuff. Matt is really well catching up or entering here the game much faster than I expected. Nice surprise for me. So thank you again. On the other side, I hope I can go a little more into TaskWarrior development again. That has slowed down or came to an halt during the last time a bit. There is what maybe also touches TaskWarrior pull request for the libshare module to make it's called make week number parsing ISO 8601 compliant for week start equals 1. So I haven't looked into detail in here. It's more or less saying that, well, you can more or less set this somehow, but it's not applied to the parsing actually. I guess it's trying to fix it. As I said, I haven't looked into details, but I think I'll, yeah, if it does not break any tests, I just will and find I do not find anything that is completely wrong. I'll just go for that. It's good to have some other people also, as you said, working for that. Yeah, we can still then see that it fits with TaskWarrior and TaskWarrior tests, I guess. Yeah. So I think that's more or less all from my side.
I can go do a little bit more detail on the website that Thomas just mentioned. So the work that the little bit of work that I did over the last week was we have documentation with screenshots that don't scale so well. So what I was doing was transcribing those screenshots into text, and that sounds easy, and it is in a certain sense. But part of it was taking the making sure that the color of the Time Warrior reports was appropriately reflected in those screenshots. That's why they were still screenshots. And Thomas encouraged me to dive a little bit deeper on the ANSI shell escape sequences that come out of the terminal, resulting in that formatting, and how to display those things on the website. So right now I have a draft pull request that is it shouldn't be a draft anymore. I should put it to the next step. It's basically ready to go. But that's been fun to work on. And so that's Time Warrior and me working on the website. And kind of on the side, Task Warrior. So I've showed you in the past how I look at my tasks on my phone. Well, now I have a button remapped on the side of my phone, the volume button. If I hold it down, it just takes me right to a place where I can enter my tasks. Doesn't run Task Warrior on my phone, but it runs some like simple markdown editor where I get a clean, just like, hey, enter your tasks, and then Sync thing takes it over from my phone to my computer as long as it's turned on. So that's been fun to kind of play around with. This is not, I don't think this is a production ready sort of thing. This is me just like linking a couple of disparate apps together, including Button Mapper and Marker, the text editor, but and Sync thing as well. But it's been fun to work on, and it's been functional for me. So now not only do I have read of tasks on my phone, but I have write too. So that's been fun. That's what's going on over here.
That's great.
That's super cool. Ed, anything from you?
I did have a question for Dustin. You mentioned big Rust programmers. And, I mostly do JavaScript and Python. I'm not really interested in getting into Rust, but I'd love to help the community. Um, are there admin support things that I could help the community with. And
There will be
you could think about it if you want to, but if you think about that, there's some things that you at one point you mentioned reaching out to other communities, and maybe that's a possibility. I was thinking, I'm sort of semi-retired, so and don't mind some of the um, routine routine jobs that just need to get done, and so if there are things like that that you could think of that would take stuff off of people who are programming, trying to mentor new people. Um, I'd be happy to kind of take some of those on. I just don't really know um, what would be needed. So if you could think about that, if there's things like that that would be helpful, um, even
think
not.
about it. I think the only places we have Python are in the tests. So certainly we could probably find more places that we need to do tests. And those are integration style tests. So Python is running the task binary itself and then examining the output. Probably we could come up with some places where we could have better tests. In fact, I could probably just grab for to do the tests and come up with a few hundred of them. Now that I think about it. So we don't have any JavaScript that I'm aware of. And the thing that you mentioned with reaching out to other communities was reaching out specifically to distributions, so homebrew, Ubuntu, that sort of thing. And I think that still needs to be done. I'm not aware of anyone working on that, and would be a good thing to have um, in place, especially as we think about making a 3.1 release, like being able to send some kind of message to those folks to say like the 3.1 should be a safe upgrade for your users, or have a point of contact there, just so that they can make sure that they're not getting heat for what happened with the 3.0. I think would be good there. So that's what I can come up with off the top of my head. I will keep that in the back of my mind as I do the release this week and see what else I can find. Yeah.
Okay. And you can even think about some of the lower levels, right? Every week I have to go in there and change this string to something else. I could do strings in Rust, I'm sure. So certain, languages you wanted, or and it doesn't even have to be on the, it could be in the admin side. So you mentioned some of the tests. I'll take a look at those. I haven't seen how you do your tests yet, so I'll take a look at those and see if there's anything there. But if there's just admin tasks that you don't want to do,
Yeah. I think something I was spending a lot of time on was going through older issues and just trying to figure out, is this still an issue, and kind of categorize it. Like I said earlier, I'm hoping eventually we get folks that are interested in color schemes, which, so we have a tag for topic colors because I found a lot of issues around color schemes. But there's a whole bunch of issues that don't have tags that are older that might still be relevant to that and help us if we're making changes to colors. We should think about those. So I think if you have some extra time and want to dig into the archives of GitHub and look at the issues that don't have any labels on them, and just kind of read through them and figure out what we can do with them. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be replicating it. It doesn't necessarily need to be answering it, but just say, oh, okay, this is a question about replication. I'll add the replication tag and you're done. Or this doesn't apply anymore because it's about the old sync model, or I tried this and it's fixed. Close the issue. We have 400 open issues right now. That's kind of a lot. I'd like to be down more around 150 to 200. So, and I don't want to necessarily throw all of that on you. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot to ask. But a little bit of work on that would be really appreciated.
So why don't I take a look at that? That sounds, it's actually kind of my wheelhouse. My background is data science and artificial intelligence, so pulling some of those things might be a fun within that grouping. Pull them, automatically tag the ones we think would be within that thing. See what we can do to clean that up a little bit. And I don't mind the routine stuff, so I don't mind like lists. That's why I like this list. So this is one of those things where you're putting things in lists and tagging, categorizing them, and that's how I do it. Take a look at it. Why don't I take a look at this?
And I think, if you do that on an ongoing basis, then you'll kind of have a much better sense for what the major issues are, and that can be really good guidance in terms of like thinking about fundamental things we could change to serve the needs of people who are using TaskWarrior would be great. And right now, I just sort of have my own feelings for what bothers me, and that's what's led me to fix things. But having a more representative sense of what's bothering people would help. Like, there's a lot of time-related issues.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. And as I say that, just so you know, I've got I'm traveling for the next week and a half, so
No,
I'll be thinking about it during the week. Okay, well, thanks, Dustin. I appreciate that.
And Thomas, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and struggling to find an unmute button. Just because you mentioned that you're are proficient in Python, so yes, Dustin said for the TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior more or less shares the same code base or code structure. Here we mostly use the Python tests, but I think here there would be some smaller project to be done, because as far as I've seen it, this is very much handwritten or just copied over code, so not really Python-esque. So we have some modules, I think on Simple Tab is there, that's just copy-pasted or handwritten, which should get some updates to modern Python. Don't know which Python 3 point it is now, but definitely outdated. So yeah, there would be some places where some person with Python expertise could definitely optimize and help just to get these tests running. And also all the end-to-end tests are more or less Python tests, and just to get them a bit more structured and say, especially with TimeWarrior, you have a lot of tests where you do create some entry 3 days before. So a lot of them are still with fixed dates, which is somehow nice, but sometimes it's a little bit, it doesn't cover everything. So it would be nice to have them a little bit more flexible and not always testing the 3rd of July, 1970 and stuff. On the other hand, if I may point to something completely different, we also have some Python projects in the Gothenburg Bit Factory. I think also this TaskWarrior is a Python project.
Yes, I forgot.
Yeah. The TaskWarrior, this was from Ralph Bean and Ryan. What's his name? Sorry for everyone. Yeah. So that's a Python project. Then we also have the TaskWarrior TimeWarrior hook, which is a Python script. Just not a really big project, just a small script, but nevertheless, I would be happy if there's somebody wants to take care of, especially when you're somebody in between TimeWarrior and TaskWarrior and using both. And actually, there's also a third one. I would look for maybe some support. That's the Holy Data project. I don't know. Does anybody of you guys here know about that one? Because actually, it's the ones TaskWarrior and also the TimeWarrior use to display when holidays take place. Mm-hmm. So we actually have this website holydata.net. Let me see if I can share that. Just a second.
And I think the moral of the story is careful what you ask for.
Yeah, this now a little bit spontaneous. I was planning to do this a little bit more coordinated, but somehow I think, well, until I wait until I have the right time and prepare everything, that will gonna take forever. So yeah, I just grabbed the opportunity now. So this is more or less the website, and here you can take a look at the locales, and we have here, for example, the holiday data for, it's always the, we more or less try to serve them from 2011 on, but on the website you can always directly go for the last 2 years. And so if you go here, you get this JSON file with, well, the holiday, and then you can integrate them into your task resource file, and well, TaskWarrior and also TimeWarrior will then take this data and can display, this day is a holiday. And the thing is, behind all of this, there is a Python library, Python project, where we calculate the holidays dynamically. So it's in the beginning there was more or less manually maintained CSV files that were somehow transferred to JSON and all other formats, but we have changed this to yeah, to more programmatically calculate the holiday data, which is, well, a bit of a lie, because holidays are defined by humans, by human laws. So it's a little bit hard to calculate them, but most of the laws say, well, it's always this or that day in that respect. So what we do is more or less transfer all these regulations into Python code, and that we can say, okay, given that these regulations, what are the holidays for this year? And that works. And so we have here all different countries. Here's the US. And there you have more or less the holiday definitions. And so one thing to help out here, just to make a little more advertising, don't be, they don't want to push anyone here in here. It's a little bit boring, but sometimes also interesting is, well, generally help with some issues with the calculation stuff to streamline Python code and stuff. The other thing is the general maintenance. So, well, Germany, let's take my example, Germany has 16 countries within, and they all have their individual holiday laws. Sometimes they overlap, have the same laws, but more or less you have to take a look at 16 countries in Germany alone to figure out, okay, what are the regulations where and how do I encode them. America has 52. There are some countries which are a little bit easier, some countries a little bit harder. Some countries change their holiday regulations on a regular basis. Spain, for example, they issue each year a new regulation, a new law, where they say, okay, next year the holidays will be such and such because they, well, they do it. There are some reasons, but I don't want to get into details. So you have some maintenance effort to do that. And I was very long trying to catch up or keep up with that for myself. It's working somehow. Did not get that many complaints about wrong files. Maybe nobody looks at them. But on the other hand, it's really difficult, especially from an outsider, when you do not know what the rules are and where to find them. So always more trying to find people now, and I guess I'm starting with this day, who more or less adopt a country or maybe a state and try to maintain the code base for this small aspect of here, and keep an eye on the rules and transfer them back. So
Awesome. I'm really glad you brought that up because I didn't even know you had that. That's a great resource. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there are several resources you can take holiday data from, but mostly, I think the big one is timeanddate.com, but they have an API you have to pay for, so we cannot actually use them, or you have to do that. So this is our free service for that. I'm not quite sure whether there aren't that many others, but maybe are also just limited to a specific country. It's a little crazy project, I admit here, but well, if other people want to join here, yeah, I'm happy to share, and yeah, I would be happy if they get some support, or especially when it comes to getting into the weeds of the individual states, because that's getting harder and harder the more you diversify here with other countries. I've recently struggled with Australia, and yeah, trying to get some easy way out here currently. But yeah, so just saying, if anybody wants to join in here, just give me a call.
So, thank you for that. I'm going to make that pinned issue in the TaskWarrior repo, since I think a lot of folks come into the TaskWarrior repo initially. But I'll make a pinned post that links to all these things that we've talked about, and label a good first issue. And hopefully people coming in and saying, I'd like a good first issue, but I use Python. They can find this and say, oh, look, there are Python repos here. I'll just go find that repo and find the issues there. And it may be useful to add some issues with the good first issue tag in those repos. A lot of things do sort of automatically point to that label.
Wow, well, that was a great discussion. Thank you guys. I'm going to turn off the recording at this point.